I hope you're having a great day. Well, today we're going to talk about how you can get high naturally without all the side effects. Now, getting high is something which has existed in civilizations for decades and decades all across the world. Human beings found ways to get high using certain herbs, using extracts from plants, smoking certain particular plants all across, but there was a different intention. People got high to dance and rituals and ceremonies. People got high. Priests in different religions got high so that they could enter a state of trance where they could be in a more meditative space and basically have more clarity with their prayer and their thoughts. Well, today we're living in a world where all of that has changed. Almost every one of us have lives which are full of stress and which is not normal anymore, which is why human beings are constantly looking for ways to find peace. And like I said in my previous video, be it meditation, be it chanting, be it holiday after holiday, just to find peace just gives us a signal that today's world isn't really normal for us, because as a human being we should be able to find that easily within ourselves, in our lives and in our surroundings. But because we need to keep searching for it on the outside all the time, that's why we can easily make a statement that our lives today are full, so crammed with stuff, right from our careers to our relationships to the things that we want to do, to the amount of stress, the peer pressure that we have on our children. Everywhere you go in every country there is a certain amount of stress that is driving the population towards sickness and disease. Well, coming back to getting high, yeah, there were things like marijuana, there were things like hashish, there were things like ayahuasca, there were certain oils from different plants and even certain spices, even nutmeg, even poppy seeds were used to make people high. It was done with the right intention, but today, fast forward to today, and it's a business out there. It's a massive cash flow when you can find something which is cheap but can make someone high, really, really high, so that the person gets addicted. And then when that person's feeling low and they want to feel high, they have a quick fix. You spend some amount of money and you have a tablet or you have a pill or you have a powder that can get you extremely high with all the side effects, creating addiction and everything else. So those kind of drugs are cocaine, heroin, and your meth, and your MDMA and amphetamines, and the list can go on. Pharmaceuticals also make certain drugs which treat certain symptoms, but they're over the counter because they know that people take them to either get themselves high or to basically get themselves so low because they don't want to feel the pain that they go through. And that's why it's it's not over the counter, but it's a prescription drug, and that also gets misused. Well, today we're going to talk about a couple of things which are natural that can get you high right now. So when I look around in my life, I know two people, maybe a couple of them, but two people that come to my mind. One is my friend Vaishali and one is my friend Hemant. These people can be high on life. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't do any of that, but you see them, you speak to them, they are always high on life. Well, we're talking about a couple of things today. The number one thing being exercise. Now, most of you who exercise, most of you who run, you'll realize after a certain amount of exercise or running, you get this natural high. Those are endorphins that are being produced. And that basically is produced to basically mask the pain of the exercise or the pain that the exercise is causing us. Those endorphins make us feel so high. And give me a like right now if you're one of those people who have experienced the power of endorphins when it comes to your exercise. So again, when you have a sedentary lifestyle, it can lead you to depression. It can lead you to feeling very, very low because you're not producing the right amount of endorphins. You see, the human body and the human brain is designed to produce drugs that have an impact on our health in a positive way, an impact on our emotions in a positive way. Okay, the same effect that we can get in drugs outside of our system. That's why we have something called endocannabinoid receptors in our brain. We have these receptors because the brain is capable of producing chemicals similar to the effect of cannabis. Similar, our own body and brain can produce this, and that is why we have endocannabinoid receptors in our brain. So our brain can do this all the time. One of the ways is through exercise. The more you exercise, the more endorphins you produce. The more endorphins you produce, the more high and happy you can get. The second way, good food. Good food, for the longest time, people socialized around good food. Good food can make you happy and it can make you high. A lot of foodies out there will understand the moment they see good food or they smell good food, or some of them can even dream of good food and it makes them high. That's because food has a relationship. It correlates with several cells and receptors in the human body. Now, one thing is, if you're not eating mindfully and you're overstuffing yourself and you're eating out of greed and gluttony and mindlessly, you're not going to get that high effect or that happy effect that food can produce. But when you really connect with your food, not just at a level of, eye appeal, but the fragrance and the taste and everything that's connected, you produce a flood of chemicals in your brain that can leave you feeling happy and high. The third, good friends and a good community circle. Going back civilizations before, people had small communities which were strong, communities where they felt accepted, where they were heard, where you could be heard, where you could be accepted for who you were, where you could depend on that community of friends to look after you in sickness or when there was a problem. And that is another way of us. A lot of us have good friends that help us feel high naturally, and we don't need anything else besides that. The fourth is this concept of offering compassionate listening. When you offer compassionate listening to a person, you give the other person a chance to speak from their heart. Whatever it is, they could be speaking about themselves, they could be praising themselves, they could be speaking about their sorrows, about their joys, whatever it is. But when someone can be heard compassionately, which means if that person is allowed to speak without being interrupted, whatever it is that they want to speak without being judged, they can get high. You can get high. You try speaking to someone who will give you undivided attention, and you can speak, you can blow your own trumpet, you can do whatever you want. You will end up feeling good. You will end up feeling super happy and high as well. Compassionate listening is something that the world needs more of. And then we have music and dance. For the longest time, there are people who just dance to music. Music and dance are two things which, if you connect to on that level, you don't need a drug, you don't even need a drop of alcohol to enhance your high. You can get naturally high. And there are so many people out there who can just dance, listen to music, and get naturally high. And then we have yoga, the power of yoga, because why? It incorporates movement with breath. Movement and breath means more oxygen to your mind. The more oxygen you get to your mind, the more high and the more happy you feel, which is why people who engage in deep breathing, pranayama, they always feel better. They always feel this calmness or this high, a natural high post that, which makes deep breathing your tool when you're low to feel high immediately. Because the more oxygen, the more you train your lungs to utilize oxygen, and the oxygen reaches your brain in the right quantity, there is a huge chance that you can move from low to high in no time at all. And then you have nature. We have so many people who can just lose themselves in nature and feel high and connected. Because nature, the positive ions, negative ions, we live in cities, but when you move to nature, you can feel naturally high. Your cravings disappear. You don't need to be on social media. You just want to be, amidst nature, because it has that effect on our happiness levels and how high we can get. Then you have sex, you have touch, and you have hugs. We need to understand that sex is a natural thing. Lust and sex which is disrespectful, which is forced upon people, will never get you that kind of high. It'll just satisfy your lust. But when sex is sacred to the human body, again, it goes back to civilizations where sex is sacred when it's done the right way, with love, with feelings, with an emotional connect, in a respectful way. It can make you high, and I know there are so many people out there who can get high on respectful and good lovemaking and sex. That brings us back to touch again. Why? Because when there's sex, there's touch. When there's touch, there are hugs. Hugs, touch, and sex produces oxytocin in huge quantities, and that's why a woman and a man feel so satisfied when the sex is good, when the sex is respectful, and it's done in a sacred way. So that's another way of you getting high. Now, another way, the last way that you can get really high, is when you give back, when you truly give back and you can make a difference in someone's life. I can't tell you how high people get just in being in service to other people. When you can change someone's life, when you can make a difference, when you can give back, not just write out a check and give it out. That's great too. But I'm saying when you can involve your time with people who are aging, people who are sick, children who are sick, and you can give your time, which is the most priceless thing on this planet. You have this feeling inside which is incredible. It keeps you high. It keeps you happy. It's an unbelievable feeling. Many of you would have experienced it, but if you haven't, just throwing yourself into good social work that is meaningful for you, and where the end result is that you can make a difference in some way or the other. It could be small, it could be big. That can make you high as well. Now, a lot of people look at psychoactive drugs, and a lot of people look at alcohol, and to each his own. But like I always say, don't get lost in that. If alcohol and drugs is going to be your key source of happiness, you are eventually going to be addicted, and you are eventually going to be hollow. you're going to have a void in you, and you're going to be miserable, because no amount of alcohol and no amount of psychoactive drugs can ever fill the void that only life can fill. Sometimes you can just be happy on life, because everything around you, your inside environment and your outside environment and your inner peace, is so perfect that you're high on life, irrespective of what misfortunes you're going through, what negatives you keep hearing. You can be high on life. Now, we also talk about caffeine. Caffeine gets a lot of us high, but you all should know today that caffeine comes under the category of a psychoactive substance, a psychoactive drug. In pharmacies, caffeine, and in the medical curriculums, and in the nutritional curriculums as well, caffeine comes under a psychoactive substance. What does a psychoactive substance mean? This doesn't mean you have to be scared and stop drinking your coffee. Coffee has health benefits as well when it's drunk in the right quantity, at the right time, and the right way. It's psychoactive because it's defined. Anything that is psychoactive is something that can alter the mental state of your mind. And caffeine can do that. But why we don't want to use it as a way to be high is because you have a high and then you have a crash, and you have a low and then you need to get high again, and then you have a crash and a low. And that's what makes drugs and excessive caffeine bad for us. So these are natural, free, inexpensive things that we can look at to get high. Does it mean you have to stop your alcohol? Absolutely not. Like I always say, the problem is never with the alcohol. The problem is with the person consuming it. The same people different people can consume the same amount of alcohol, and everyone will react differently to it. Some people drink themselves senseless. Some people can drink without any side effects. Some people get addicted. Some people don't. It all depends on you. The problem is never alcohol. The problem is with the person. So when it comes to getting high, these are the natural things that you can look into your life and see, can you use them to stay high? Because when we're high, we're happy. And in today's world, which is full of stress, we do need to get high sometimes. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time, eat smart, move more, sleep right, and breathe deep.